Well, as we've all seen on the news, the images are devastating. Desperate people fleeing the brutal civil war in Syria, trying to find a country of refuge to start their lives anew. Canada has flung open its doors for 25,000 of the most desperate. You've been seeing them arriving on TV, and many of them are about to experience their very first Christmas in Canada. We are unique in the world with our private sponsorship program, and churches have been on the front lines of welcoming these newcomers to Canada. With me today are representatives from the Niagara United Mennonite Church, one of the churches who is preparing to receive a sponsored family this month. Bill Devolin helps lead the refugee committee who are supporting this. Bill, welcome. And Udo Woelke is a church member and former refugee himself. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
I read about your story in the paper and I was so impressed. You told me that when it was finally put before the membership of your church, whether you wanted to support this family or not, the vote took 5 minutes. Why was it decided so quickly?
Oh, that's correct. We as a congregation have a history of either having been refugees or supporting refugees over the many years. Mennonite Church Canada asked the congregations to support. We brought that to our church council and then our membership meeting. 5 minutes, unanimous vote, and the only thing that they said was, we have to do it now. So that was the end of October, and since then we have, our application is in process. We understand we will be sponsoring a family of 7, which would be a family group of 5 and 2 associated young men. The church genuinely believes this is what we need to do as a congregation. Reach out that hand. We've got lots of wealth in the area, lots of experience to help, and that's why we're here today.
And you know, one of the things I love about what you did is, you know, the Mennonite Central Committee, who's heading all of this up for your church, had said, you know, we've identified some people that are hard to place, some of the most desperate that are going to need a lot more than the average support. And you stepped up to that. What is special about this family?
Oh, yes. The question was, how do you decide on a profile? We were given profiles and our answer was quite simple. Tell us who really needs a sponsorship. Because of the circumstances of this family and the associated 2 young men, they've had trauma, they've had difficulties, they will need help when they get here. And
some counseling support,
very much.
Some healing.
Something that, after having gone through a couple years of such a challenging experience, and we said, well, if it's not us, it needs to be somebody, so why not us?
Yeah, I love that. You know, and you are a church of former refugees, many people coming here in the Second World War, many people German Mennonite refugees. Udo, you were one of them. I wanted you to come today because I think you bring a unique perspective of what it's like. You know, you came here, you had lost everything, you had seen war, you were a young child. What was that experience like?
For a child, you sort of roll with what happens, but for our parents it must have been absolutely traumatic. When I see those streams of refugees coming out of Syria and Iraq on the news every evening, it turns my gut because I can see I can see myself and my family, my mother with 5 children in a cruel winter, just having to move because the Russian front was going to overrun us. It turns my gut nowadays to think of it.
It was very fearful. The front kept moving and you kept trying to stay ahead of it, but it didn't look like you were going to succeed until you had family members help you.
Right. We were, at first we were on a wagon train with a relative, with an aunt, and then another relative found us, took us out of there. He says, you couldn't possibly make it in time. You're going to be overrun by the front. And in fact, those people were. And he put us on a train, and we were on a ship on the Baltic Sea, and on by train, and we finally got into West Germany that way.
And you have been reading your mom's journal, and it kept you up all night reading that. Why did it do that?
I read it late in an evening, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I could not sleep anymore. I had to get back to the story, and I had to get back to peace within myself. It still chokes me up today.
I think one of the things that impressed me, you know, when your story came out in the newspaper and your church decided to do this, so many people in your church come from a circumstance such as yours. They lost everything. They suffered the trauma of war. They heard the bombs. And then they came here, and then many of them with a German accent were viewed with suspicion. People thought they may be Nazi sympathizers. That was the case of your wife when she came.
Yes, the children, of course, got bullying in school because they looked different. They were dressed different. They might be at a grade 7 level, but had to start at a grade 1 level, not knowing the language. For the adults, it was more that suspicion because it was just a couple of years after the war, and Germans were enemies.
Yeah.
Rather than neighbors.
So it seems like the same story, different race, different religion, but the same fear that we have in humanity of who is our enemy.
Yes.
What would you say to people who are scared?
Look at the people rather than they want to be your neighbors. They want to be your friends. They need your help. It's difficult we're always afraid of strange things, strange people, especially now with the terrorism that has happened in the last few years, yes, and weeks.
It's true. We just don't know. We don't know people's hearts, but it's never going to change if we don't start loving people. Bill, how does this tie into your Christian faith and that idea of love?
Well, I think it's fundamental. We're told to love your neighbor, reach out the hand. That is fundamental to our faith, and we are acting out on that. To sit back and not do anything would not be correct, in my opinion. The church, I believe we are all of that same belief. You have to act to show the love. We are, to Udo's point about the family coming, we actually have faith in them. Like, they have to have faith in us, but we have to have faith in them. That they want a new life, a better life for themselves.
For their kids.
At the committee meeting the other night, it was very interesting. Our refugee committee, there are people saying, oh, we got a new friend coming. It's as basic as that.
Well, one of the things that I loved about this story, I talked to your church administrator, April, and she told me that from the second the story hit the papers, your phone has been ringing off the hook from the community, offering help. Yes. And you got some really profound emails from people responding. Tell me a little about that.
Yes. It was in the local newspaper and then went into another newspaper, and we've quickly received, we have now 25 plus responses, offers of ESL, offers of furniture, etc. But some of them have been really touching. One, a gentleman who had struggled with his experience with the church. And his closing comment was, I want to thank your church for welcoming and supporting the Syrians and showing love to those who need it most. This gives me hope for humanity and for the church. That's a really loving response.
I love that one because I know that person had been kind of disillusioned with the church, and this began to restore the hope that we could be the best that we could be.
And other members, again, we're getting them from around the community. Just found out about your sponsorship, and I wanted to mention how I feel about compassion. I love you guys. And they would actually, they're actually hoping to come to our church. They're looking for a welcome, and it's obviously there.
I wrote this quote down from the same person. I am not a religious person, but I would love to attend one of your services, and then let me know if it's possible.
Oh, it's more than possible.
Well, come,
No,
yes.
door's always open. Door is always open.
I love that because they felt that welcome. They're not even into faith of any sort, but they felt that welcome. They felt like they would be welcome with you.
This whole challenge, tragedy, is touching so many hearts. And if we can show our love through the church, I think it's just an amazing thing.
It's a message to the world, really,
Oh.
about who Jesus is and about his heart for people. Udo, you had felt that God was really speaking to you through the Bible about this, and I love the story, that the comparison that he gave me. Tell me about that.
Yes, first of all, I'm incredibly thankful for the country that I'm allowed to call my home, that gave us a home so many years ago when we needed it so badly. But about 2 or 3 weeks ago in my evening devotion, I read about the 2 disciples that walked from Jerusalem to Emmaus on Easter Sunday. And Jesus joined them along the road, and they didn't recognize him. And until he thanked for the meal at the table and broke the bread and shared it with them. And that picture of Jesus sharing the bread with them hit me like a ball of lightning. Here we are. This is our opportunity. It's our turn to share the benefits and the incredible wealth that we have in this country with people who need it so badly, just as we did many years ago.
Yeah. You're already seeing that the community around you is beginning to recognize Jesus because of the actions of your church and your congregation, and the love that you are showing. People are starting to write in and say, I see something here. I see Jesus. I see love. This is what we're called to do as the church.
I have a 94-year-old ex-colleague whom I met a week ago, and he said, I hear you guys are sponsoring a Syrian family. I'm of Lebanese background. I want to contribute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm so thankful for what you're doing, and thank you for you coming to tell your story. April had said to me, your administrator, we could do it ourselves in our church. We sponsor many refugees, but actually this has inspired us to open up the doors and let the whole community participate. Let's all welcome these people. I think you're making a wonderful example to Canada, to the rest of us. Thank you for all you're doing. We'll be praying for you and cheering you on as your family is going to be here hopefully within a week or 2.
Yes, thank you very much.
Well, I hope that you've been inspired today hearing this story. Maybe there's something you can do. Maybe you can provide rides or, some funds or some furniture or some toys. Who knows? We can all be part of this, saying to people that you are welcome and that we love you. Let's fight hate with love.